All right, first off, a huge congratulations. You've made it through all 9 modules, you've put in the work, and now it is time to bring it all home. Think of this as our capstone review. We're going to crystallize all the critical strategies we've covered and give you that high-level bird's-eye view on how to achieve real cloud freedom. Let's jump right in.
Okay, first, a quick but really important disclaimer. This is a review of what was discussed in the 9-module overview on strategies to avoid cloud vendor lock-in, and is based on comprehensive research from Virtualization Options LLC. It provides general principles and is provided without any warranty, and it's definitely not intended to provide legal advice. You should always work with competent legal counsel who's familiar with the laws and regulations in your area. So think of this as your strategic map. It's here to help you ask all the right questions.
So, here's our game plan for this executive briefing. We're going to kick things off by revisiting the core problem of lock-in itself. Then, we'll walk through our architectural defenses, our strategic plays, and that critical balancing act. We'll also take a look at the changing market landscape before we land on a clear, actionable path forward for you.
All right, so let's start at the very beginning, just like we did back in Chapter 1. What is vendor lock-in really, and why is it such a massive business risk today?
At its heart, vendor lock-in is all about losing your flexibility. You know that feeling of being stuck, where switching to a new provider is it's too expensive, it's too complicated, it's just too disruptive. But the real danger, the key takeaway here, is the loss of your negotiating leverage. The second a vendor knows you can't just pack up and leave, well, that's when the whole power dynamic shifts. And that loss of leverage, it leads to some very real, very tangible business risks, which we dug into in Chapter 2. We're talking about sudden price hikes you have no choice but to accept, or, a feature you rely on suddenly gets worse or disappears completely. And of course, the huge challenge of just getting your data out. This isn't just a tech headache, it's a fundamental risk to your bottom line. So how do we start to fight back? Well, our first, and honestly our most powerful line of defense is all about architecture. As we established back in Chapter 3, the architectural choices you make today are what will dictate how much freedom you have tomorrow. Simple as that. We really explored 3 main architectural patterns, right? Each one offers a different kind of defense. Multi-cloud is about spreading your risk around. Hybrid cloud gives you that ultimate control by mixing your own infrastructure with the public cloud. And then there's the real game changer, containerization, which is all about making your applications portable right from the get-go. And this is exactly why we called containerization and Kubernetes the great liberators. I mean, when you package your applications into these standard containers, you're effectively cutting the cord that ties them to the underlying infrastructure. All of a sudden, your application doesn't care if it's running on AWS or GCP or in your own data center. This right here, this is the bedrock of a truly cloud-agnostic strategy. But look, a brilliant architecture is only half the story. As we covered in Chapter 4, you've got to have the right strategic and tactical plays, the day-to-day disciplines, to actually reinforce that portable foundation. And these are those essential disciplines. It starts with something that sounds so simple but is so often overlooked: planning your exit strategy from day one. It means always choosing open-source tools that can work anywhere. It means making sure your data is in standard, open formats. And maybe most importantly, automating everything with infrastructure as code. That way, you have a portable blueprint of your entire system. Now, let's be realistic. As we discussed in Chapter 5, gaining this kind of freedom, it doesn't come for free. It means you have to make some conscious and, yes, sometimes pretty tough trade-offs between portability and your other business goals. And here it is, the central dilemma that every single tech team faces. On one hand, a vendor's cool proprietary service can be a massive shortcut. It gets you to market faster, it can reduce your operational headaches. But with every API call you make to that service, you're digging that lock-in moat just a little bit deeper. The key here isn't to just avoid them completely, but to be deliberate, to make a strategic choice for every workload, carefully weighing that short-term speed against your long-term freedom. And these trade-offs, they have real hard costs. For instance, that freedom you get from a multi-cloud strategy, it can easily come with a 25% bump in your operational overhead. Think about it. You're managing multiple tool chains, you need broader expertise on your team. That's a serious number you have to factor into your budget and your strategy. And then there's the sneaky cost of what we call data gravity. On average, it costs about 9 cents per gigabyte just to move your own data out of a cloud provider. Now, 9 cents sounds like nothing, right? But if you've got petabytes of data, that can turn into a bill for hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of dollars. That is a powerful financial chain holding you in place, no matter how portable your architecture is.
What's really crucial to understand is that this whole conversation, it's not just for engineers anymore. As we saw in Chapter 6, vendor lock-in has become a board-level, strategic issue, and that's being driven by these huge shifts in the market and more by actual regulation.
Just look at this timeline. You can see the trend accelerating. It really started with data sovereignty concerns from GDPR back in 2018. Then you had court cases like Schrems II, making things even more complicated. And now, we're seeing direct laws being proposed, like the EU's Data Act, which has the explicit goal of making it easier to switch cloud providers. The big takeaway here? Regulators are now looking at lock-in as a market competition problem.
So, with all that said, where do we go from here? In this final section, we're going to pull together all the key lessons from Chapters 7, 8, and 9 and turn them into a clear, actionable plan for you. Your path to freedom. Look, if you walk away remembering only 4 things from this entire course, let it be these. 1. Lock-in is a business risk, not just a tech problem. 2. Your architecture is your defense. 3. Open standards are your best friends. And 4. Every single decision is a trade-off. You gotta own that. This is the strategic mindset you need. And here's how you put that mindset into action. Take these questions from Chapter 8 with you to your next vendor meeting. Ask them point blank about data export. Ask about egress fees and if they're willing to negotiate. Ask them which services are open and which are proprietary. Their answers, or maybe they're non-answers, will tell you everything you need to know about how much they value your freedom. And finally, here's your toolkit, straight out of Chapter 9. These are the battle-tested, open-source technologies that really make a cloud-agnostic strategy possible. From Terraform for your infrastructure to Kubernetes for orchestration, every investment you make in these open standards is a direct investment in your own long-term flexibility and freedom. And that brings us to our final thought, and it's probably the most important one. In a world that is constantly changing, agility is the name of the game. The goal was never to avoid the cloud. The goal is to master it, to use all of its incredible power, but to do it on your own terms. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Now go build your path to freedom.